Good evening, good morning, good day to everyone, everywhere. This is the Prometheus model kit, which I'm sure everyone is well aware of. It's by Fantastic Plastic. I've had this kit for quite a while now. I am now beginning to actually look about building it. So, let's have a look in the box. What we have here is a ton of basically a ton of instructions to work your way through as to how we actually construct the kit. It's quite detailed. So as we can see, there are sheets and sheets of instructions. This is also on a CD-ROM which Fantastic Plastic has provided the model maker with. The kit, as you can see, is resin. It's a off-white colour, sort of cream. It has a fine texture to it, I should say, which isn't bad. I quite like it. There is a lack, however, of panel detail, but as we progress with regards to the build, I'm sure we can come up with a solution during the journey. This is not just only a review, we will actually be building the Prometheus. So it's going to be quite a journey for myself and hopefully you guys, the viewers. But as you can see, some of the parts are really sturdy, really quite solid. Other parts are hollow, which you can see. This will be for lighting, fiber optics, LEDs, SMDs, you name it. But we're not at journey's end yet. Well, I suppose lighting, it's not even journey's end, it's sort of halfway through, but either way, we're nowhere near that yet. There is no aftermarket lighting for this kit, so we're having to design that from scratch, which is going to be interesting in itself. I'm hoping, this is in focus, but we'll see. At the moment, there is nothing out there as good as what Fantastic Plastic has offered us. So this is the best there is. As we've already seen on YouTube, there are many parts to this kit, much of which has flash. These are mainly landing and in-flight landing gear assembly and so on. Yeah, it's not major. It can be cleaned up, tidied up. Oops. These are landing pads. This is the CD-ROM, or CD-ROMs I was referring to earlier on. You know, you can either put this on your laptop, your desktop, whatever, and assemble the kit, you know, via your computer, or just print things out as I've done, you know, which is quite handy actually. So you got both. You got the best of both worlds. But the Prometheus is going to be a very, very, very interesting build. I'm hoping to get some decals custom made for this as well, because there's no decals. So it'll be a mixture of custom made decals and painting applications. So yeah, there's enough to be getting on with. I think the one thing that we were all expecting was the kit to be, you know, transparent in nature, but along the lines Fantastic Plastic decided otherwise. So we have something that's basically not transparent. But looking at the command and bridge module, it's a solid piece, but we're going to remedy that by making that, or remaking it out of brass and detailing it. So that will be another one of this kit's challenges. But we'll get there. We will get there. Can you see that? No, I don't think that's in focus. This is my first time at attempting a recording, as I'm sure you can all tell, and publishing on good old YouTube. But let's see how things go, and we'll join together on this epic journey of building the Prometheus. These engine pods are so cool. It is really a nice design, the Prometheus. It really is gorgeous. You know, these engines lend themselves well to lighting, and I can imagine quite a bit how they will look lit. So yeah. These pylons, however, or booms, and I'm getting ahead of myself here, will need a lot of work in terms of threading wires through. So there's going to be a lot of cutting and threading here. I'll try and minimize that particular job, but again, that's we're not quite there with that yet. Right then, on with the build. What we have here is essentially Prometheus's fuselage. We have the top fore and aft section. We have the lower fore and aft section, or I should say the bottom part, Here we have the bridge. There's another part of the aft section here, if I bring into frame. This is part of the bridge and command module. As you can see, it's hollow, but we'll need some work as we're going to be lighting this as well. I keep on referring to the lighting. It's always on my mind, although we're nowhere near there yet, as I've said previously. This is Vickers EV. It has some detail, additional detail, which will go on it as we progress with the build. I'm actually toying with the idea of using this as a battery compartment so that we can have the batteries and the lighting all self-contained. But as always, I'm getting ahead of myself. But I suppose it's not a bad thing to be thinking about these aspects as we progress. I think with this model it's important to start with the fuselage. By doing this, we can see how we're generally going to progress. But looking at these contacts, the model doesn't align very well. So these male and female contacts will have to be altered, drilled out. Also, these internal supports will have to be reinforced. There's going to be a lot of tension and counter-tension while building this, and the last thing we want is the kit to shatter during the build. That'd be most unfortunate, wouldn't it? But yeah, this is going to have to be pinned together. It's no way we could possibly consider just gluing it like that and hoping for the best. It's just not going to work. So it is a model that's going to require quite a lot of surgery. Also, if we look at some of the, I don't think we can see that there, but if there, you can see my finger through the model there. There's some translucence, and that's because where it's been injected into the mould, it's come out a bit thin, but we can reinforce that with some milliput. Good old milliput. Oh, it's good stuff. So what we're going to do, areas where there are gaps missing, we do have some gaps in the model, we'll box off and fill and reinforce with milliput. I am not going to be pouring resin into that because I just do not want a massive reaction where the kit is going to be refabricated, because this delicate detail here where the exhaust or vents are, you just don't want to lose that. So all that will be reinforced with milliput. Yeah, if I hold that to the light, you can still see the light coming through that. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so that is what we're going to do. The bridge module, however, the command module, is really quite sturdy. Unfortunately, this area is quite thick, and there's an awful lot of lighting here, and I'm thinking, well, how am I going to drill that out? Should I drill all that out? But we'll see. We'll see how far we get with that. And these sections here, these are also vents or exhaust grills, and they have to be, where are we? Yeah, they have to be attached to this part of the kit here. It's really quite a complicated fit. But again, that will have to be pinned in place. And then I'm going to reinforce it. So we're going to build and reinforce, I think, is the order. The order of things, to be perfectly honest. Build and reinforce. But right now, we're going to start connecting the fuselage, or the primary hull. Can you say that, primary hull? We're going to start gluing this together and drilling parts out. So, I don't think I can do that on camera. Could be a bit awkward. But that's what we're going to do. We're going to start with this section, this section. This is not going to go on until everything else is pretty much glued together and set and reinforced. So the 4.5 sections are going to be the very, very last, well, part of the very, very last items that will go together. Yeah, interesting, isn't it? You know, this isn't, I wouldn't say this is a definitive way how to build this kit. It's just how I'm going to tackle it, and I just hope it'll be of some use and help to you good folks out there. Right then, let surgery commence. Alright, as you can see, we have good old pin vise. This is what I'm using essentially to make a start on things. It's always better to start with a little hole as opposed to a massive thing. Then you later stand very little or no chance of actually correcting. I'm going to take this out of frame a second and continue drilling. I'm using a reinforced drill bit, so we don't want things snapping on us, as is often the case with lesser drill bits. As we can see, that is quite substantial. That's quite quite a long way to go through there, so the screw that I'm going to pin this together with is going to be quite long and will be quite a belt and braces job essentially, because that's what we really need, a belt and braces job. Perhaps we should have a sew counter. Don't know how many times I've said sew. As you can see, this is what we're doing. We're going to make a hole through this here, through this contact, through this male contact, and vice versa. And then we'll make some secondary pins that will go in here and subsequently join up with the aft section of the ship. But I think I will do this off camera and come right back. See you in a tick. Right then, we're back. As you can see, we have drilled those holes. Done that on two sections of the ship, the fore and aft. But unfortunately, with the aft section of the vessel, we have a wee crack, and that was because I was trying to thread a screw. This is where learning about stress tolerances comes in. See if we can focus that. I don't think we can. Can we focus that? Just a wee bit. We can't seem to get it. I'm sure you can just about see that crack there. It's a shame. I'm not too worried about it. It's all going to be patched up anyway. But with regards to using screws, that's out of the window now. So what we're going to use instead will be brass rods. So we'll use a 2-part epoxy resin to secure them. And we'll dovetail everything together that way. But we're not finished boring holes yet. We've got to do these top sections here, as you can see. I've just made some preliminary holes there as a guide. And that will, or those will rather, will have brass rods in them too. So, yeah. Did say it was going to be an adventure. And the adventure started in earnest, I think. Or was that begun in earnest? So you can see where we're going with this. I started off with the pin vise. Just a good old pin vise. It's a neat little tool. But we've upgraded to his big brother. Now obviously this is a power tool. It's a good old Dremel. You have to use this on the lowest setting. You don't want to take it all the way up to warp 5, otherwise you're going to be in a lot of trouble unless you have a really steady hand. Besides which, if you use this on a high setting, you're just going to melt your resin, which you really do not want to do. So yeah, I don't know if I can actually use this on camera. It's going to be a little bit awkward because I need all my faculties. I do not think I can film and drill at the same time. It'll be a bit awkward. So what I'm going to do is crack on with this off camera, and we'll be right back. As we can see, we've drilled those holes like we were talking about, cleaned up all the nasty resin dust. We don't want to be breathing any of that in. As we know, resin and resin dust can be potentially carcinogenic, so safety in mind, that's all being wiped up. All the holes that are essential to joining a main hull together have now been drilled, so we will be pinning those together with brass rod. As I was saying, tried using a screw, and the screws actually cracked the resin, so that's out the window. That's not a good idea. I make these mistakes so you do not have to, or don't have to. It's funny how I alternate between do and don't, but there we go. Or do not and don't. But yeah. Again, I'm going to be using this. We'll use a cutting disc. It'll make things quicker, easier, than faffing around with a handheld saw. So yeah, I'm going to do that now. So see you shortly. What we have here are the primary and secondary supports. I decided to add the secondary supports because there was no way that the lower sections of the two hull halves were going to knit adequately. So it is, as I said, well and truly a belt and braces job. So this will be totally secure in terms of the two halves knitting together. So I'm going to secure the pins with a 2-part epoxy resin glue, and do likewise in terms of securing the other half. So we do not want the Prometheus breaking in half on her interstellar travels, do we? So yeah. We'll glue those in place. Glue the other half of the fuselage or the hull together. We'll wait until that's all cured, and we will fill it. And do likewise to the top section. Although actually in test fitting the top sections are an intrigue in themselves, or an issue in themselves. But we'll get to that. We'll glue this together, and then we'll see where we are from there. Get back to you in a tick. Right. Just a quick note to you good folks out there. I always mix my 2-part resin epoxy glue for about 5-10 minutes. I just do this because it just ensures a good mixture, a good reactive mixture that's going to do the job essentially. Got quite a bit here because I'm hoping that some of this is going to naturally fill in the gaps, so I won't have to use so much milliput. Yeah, 5 to 10 minutes, and it just ensures a good mixture. So I always put a little bit more hardener as opposed to more adhesive. I put just about the right amount of adhesive, but as I was just saying, just a little bit more hardener. And just makes things really, really tough then. Mixing, mixing, mixing. Right. That's all to do it. And start assembling the parts. As we can see, we've joined the two fuselage sections together. This comprises of the lower half of the Prometheus. We've also attached the intakes of all the vents leading towards the command module. They say that some of the best battles are fought off camera. Well, I think it also applies to building models in this case. This wasn't very easy to put together. In fact, I've had to use, see if we can focus him here, I've had to use a plastic brace to hold it together. And I had to use some super glue. The main structure, I've used epoxy 2-part resin, so glue, so that's fine. It's not going to come apart like it would if I was just using super glue. That's just to hold hold things in place while this section cures. The pins have worked nicely. I mean, of course there's going to be a lot of filling and finessing. I've also put a brace in there over the midsection. Some call it plexiglass, some call it perspex. So that's what I've used. So that might be considered as overkill, but by the time we really get going on this kit, it's going to take a lot of abuse and punishment before we reach the final stages. So it's a bit messy. I don't like messy joints, to be perfectly honest, but when that sets, I'll just go over it with some sandpaper, tidy it up so it doesn't look so messy. It's discoloured a bit. That's because I've used some acetone to wipe away some of the surplus epoxy glue. It's got this awful acrid green or yellow. Rather appropriate when you think about it. It almost looks like xenomorph blood, but yeah. So I think this just about wraps things up for part 1. I think we've made significant progress. Not bad going. Yeah. Oh, bit out of focus there. Yep, so this is the Prometheus part 1. Signing off.